I post daily NBA content on this channel, so if that is something that interests you, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video, it is much appreciated. So today, I am doing one trade that every NBA team should make. This is going to be a two-parter. This first part is the Western Conference, and part two will come out tomorrow for the Eastern Conference. But with that out of the way, I don't think this needs much introduction. Let's just get into it.
Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
The Lakers receive Derrick Rose. The Pistons receive Romeo Langford, Quinn Cook, the number 28 pick from the Lakers, and the number 47 pick from Boston. And the Celtics receive Alex Caruso. By the way, all of these moves, the money works for the most part. It might be just there that can be worked with if it had to be, so just keep that in mind. But for this particular move, it's been rumored for a while that the Lakers are interested in Derrick Rose, and I'm not going to propose the same bog standard Kyle Kuzma and their first round pick move that everyone's seeing. To me, Kyle Kuzma is not good, and I don't think the Pistons would really want him all that much, on top of the fact that they have Christian Wood and Sekou Doumbouya coming on as some of their focal pieces for the next coming seasons. So they don't really need a power forward, and Kuzma cannot play small forward, so don't think they're really that interested in him. In this move, they get Romeo Langford, who was the 14th pick in last year's draft, as well as a first-round pick and a middle-of-the-pack second-round pick, which I believe is a better deal than just 28 and Kyle Kuzma. Romeo Langford, I think, has more upside. As for why the Celtics would do this, Alex Caruso is a good 20-plus minute rotation piece, and they are missing a lot of those. Their overall depth is not great, so getting a guy like Caruso, who can be pretty damn solid, would be good for this. If you wanted to swap this out and do a different player, I could see them doing this for JaVale McGee instead if they just want a center, but I think I would go with Alex Caruso here. Either way, the Lakers can provide a rotation piece for them, and then obviously for the Lakers, you get Derrick Rose, who can be a scorer, and while he's not an amazing fit, he is a scorer, and it'd be nice to have someone outside of just LeBron and Anthony Davis who can put the ball in the basket. The Clippers receive Ish Smith, and the Wizards receive Rodney McGruder and Terrence Mann. So the Clippers need a point guard who can play make and be decent all around, and that is exactly who Ish Smith is. This year he averaged around 11 and 5 with the Wizards in about 25 minutes of action. He's a good playmaker, decent three-point shooter, decent shot creator, and decent defensive player. Everything about Ish Smith screams decent, and he can replace what Reggie Jackson was doing for them. He's pretty much better than him at this point. Wizards get back a guy in Terrence Mann, who is a pretty young player that has some upside, and they also get Rodney McGruder, who is a rotation piece. I could see the Wizards not wanting to do this just because Ish Smith is a good win-now player, and they might be more in a win-now mindset at this point, but I do think they would take this trade, and maybe you could throw in a second-round pick or two to really push them over the edge. The Nuggets receive Tony Snell and Bruce Brown from the Pistons, and the Pistons receive Gary Harris and a 2022 first lottery protected from the Denver Nuggets. With Will Barton returning from his injury and the fact that Gary Harris has really fallen off of a cliff on offense, he is really not worth the money that he's making right now, and Tony Snell is a 40% three-point shooter who's also a pretty good defensive player and a good bit bigger than Gary Harris, and Bruce Brown is a good defensive player who could be a rotation piece. You're making this move for the salary, so with you making this move, you cut out $20 million on the books for the 2021 free agency class, which is one of the deepest free agency classes ever, so if you clear that space, you could land a big name, which I think Denver would be a player for, being that they are a very good culture and team over there. So you clear this cap space with Gary Harris, you get back some rotation pieces that more or less fill what he already did, and you get that much money off of your books. So I think this is a good move for the Nuggets on the cap front. This next trade is a reworking of a trade that I proposed a couple of months ago when I did this previously, but it makes even more sense now with where the Rockets have decided they're going. So the Rockets receive Aaron Gordon, the Magic receive Aaron Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, a 2021 first from Indiana, a 2021 first from Houston from Miami, and the Pacers receive Eric Gordon. So for the Rockets, we'll talk about the main guy, Gordon, first. He can play small ball center for them, and he's a very good defensive player. And then on offense, he's a decent enough three-point shooter and a pretty good pick-and-roll man, and he's a very good passer for a center. So move PJ Tucker over to power forward, Robert Covington over to small forward, and you get this really solid starting lineup. This allows you to still play small ball, but not like ultra small ball because Aaron Gordon is almost 6'10". For the Orlando Magic, they're getting Aaron Holiday, who is a point guard that I think think has a lot of upside, who can also play with Markelle Fultz, as Fultz can play shooting guard. And you're also getting 2 first-round picks in exchange for Aaron Gordon, which I think is a pretty solid trade. You're also getting Jeremy Lamb, who can be an okay rotation piece. And then for the Pacers, you're moving a first-round pick, Lamb, and Aaron Holiday. However, with Holiday not getting much minutes with them and Lamb coming off of an injury and still not being all that great of a player, I think you make this trade because with Victor Oladipo likely leaving, Eric Gordon can replace a lot of that offense. He can be a 20-point-per-game scorer on your team if you need him to be, or if you end up keeping Victor Oladipo, that's still a very solid rotation piece to have that will help you go further in the Eastern Conference, and they already can. The OKC Thunder receive Kelly Olynyk, KZ Okpala, I hope I said that right, and the number 20 pick from the Miami Heat, and the Heat receive Dennis Schroeder. So the Thunder get a good first-round pick as well as an expiring contract, and the Miami Heat get Dennis Schroeder, who should have been 6th man of the year this season and would be a good replacement for Kendrick Nunn, as Kendrick Nunn's really not all that great. And this would allow the Heat to get deeper, but also Dennis Schroeder's contract expires after the 2021 season is over, so he does not hurt their chances at landing Giannis or Kawhi or whoever in free agency that year. So he can help you win now more while also not impeding your chances at landing a big free agent. So this is a good move for the Heat. And then for the Thunder, they're getting back a good first-round pick in exchange for a solid player, as well as an expiring contract, and a guy who can be a rotation piece in the short term, and you probably could flip for more assets. All right, get ready for this next trade because this one's a doozy. Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and Garrett Temple in exchange for Rudy Gobert, with this obviously being between the Nets and the Jazz. So I think the Utah Jazz should trade Rudy Gobert. He is on a 1-year deal, and with him wanting to get a maximum contract extension, I really don't think you can do that with him. He's just simply not as valued in the modern NBA as he would be a couple of years ago. And I also think that Utah really needs to get some offensive creators on this team outside of just Donovan Mitchell, so Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to average 35 points a game for them to have any chance at all at winning a playoff series. So Karis LeVert can be that guy. Karis can both create his own offense and create offense from others. Before he got his injury like 2 years ago, he averaged like 20-8 or something like that, 20-7 I think. So given the opportunity, I think he can be a big-time scorer and a big-time creator on this team alongside, what's his name? Point guard. Mike Conley, and him creating offense, Karis LeVert creating offense, and then Donovan Mitchell and Bogey creating offense. I think that is a good offensive system, and then Jared Allen can at least do like 70% of what Rudy Gobert did, and I think that's a pretty solid return for them. And then for the Nets, they get a defensive player, which is not the third star that Kevin Durant and Kyrie were really referring to, but this would shore up their defense, which as of right now looks pretty suspect outside of Kevin Durant if injuries are not a huge factor for him, which they probably will be. So Rudy Gobert makes their defense one of the best in the league by default, and then on offense, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving can carry that one while having a lob threat in Rudy Gobert. So I think this is a good deal for both sides if the Utah Jazz do want to move on from Rudy Gobert, which I believe they should. The Dallas Mavericks receive Drew Holiday, and the New Orleans Pelicans receive DeLon Wright, Dwight Powell, Justin Jackson, and the number 18 pick from Dallas, as well as a 2024 first from Dallas, unprotected. So, moving all of these contracts for the Mavericks in exchange for Drew Holiday, ironically, they only take a $5 million hit in their cap space for 2021, and there are moves to be made that can free up that cap space, such as trading Dorian Finney-Smith. So, this is not a move that's going to prevent them from landing anyone big in 2021, which, as you can tell, has been a common theme at this point. You don't want to lock too many teams in salary long term. So, you're getting Drew Holiday without having to worry about not being able to get Giannis in 2021, and you're also getting off some players, and and the Pelicans are getting back 2 first-round picks, one of which is already really good, one of which could be really good if things just went disaster mode in Dallas, though I doubt they will, and that's a solid return for Holiday, and on top of that, there's some decent rotation pieces here that would fit in New Orleans. The Blazers receive Monte Morris, and the Nuggets receive Anthony Simons, and a 2021 first-rounder from the Blazers. Monte is about to be a free agent, and I'm not sure that the Nuggets are going to want to pay him what he's probably going to be offered, and the Blazers are in a need of some creators outside of Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and kind of Gary Trent, so getting him would shore up your offense off of the bench and shore up your rotation at the point guard spot, as Monte can be a scorer and a playmaker and a very good three-point shooter, so him alongside Gary Trent makes your bench offense really damn solid, unless Gary Trent ends up playing small forward, but this would improve the depth of the Blazers, which is something they have needed for a while, and I think this is a good return for both sides. The Grizzlies receive Buddy Hield, and the Kings receive Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Marko Guduric, as well as a Grizzlies 2022 first, top 10 protected. Buddy to the Sixers seems like a foregone conclusion, however I also would not be surprised if Memphis got in on this deal. Dylan Brooks is like a crappier version of Buddy Hield, which is not horrible for coming off of the bench. Kyle Anderson is a really solid all-around rotation piece, and you're also getting back a first-round pick, and in the case of Memphis, getting a guy like Buddy Hield is like the perfect pairing next to Ja Morant. He can space the floor and allow Ja to do his work and give him someone to kick out to with his great playmaking, so I think that's a great fit for Memphis. And then for the Kings, I think this is a good return because Dylan Brooks and Kyle Anderson are both solid, and you're getting a first-round pick. The Suns receive Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the Pelicans receive Ty Jerome and 3 Suns second-rounders. So this move would only go down if the Pelicans felt like they didn't really have much to do with Alexander Walker. There's a chance they still have hope for him and they just want to wait and see what he becomes. But in the case that they're not wanting to do that, I think the Suns could use a guy off of the bench in the long term and in the short term that can create some offense. And Walker seems like he has that prototype. He has yet to show that he can actually be that player in the NBA, but if he can, I think he'd be a great fit in Phoenix. It's all about whether or not the Pelicans would be willing to give him up. I'm up and down on that one. Here's another Aaron Gordon trade for you. The San Antonio Spurs receive Aaron Gordon, and the Magic receive Lonnie Walker, Rudy Gay, and 3 second-round picks. So, Spurs fans are probably not going to like this one, as Lonnie Walker is a fan favorite. However, I feel from the perspective of that franchise, with Derek White and DeJounte Murray already really shoring up your guard positions for the next couple of years, I don't know how much room Lonnie Walker is going to have to get into that rotation long term, even if he does have upside. Either you're going to have to trade one of Derek White or DeJounte Murray, or you're going to have to either keep Lonnie Walker as a 6-man or trade him. And I think if you can trade Lonnie Walker for a really good rotation piece and a starter who is not a guard in Aaron Gordon, then you do that. Lonnie Walker is a guard that can create some offense, which is something the Orlando Magic should always be interested in, so I think that's a solid swap for both sides. Rudy Gay is just a salary piece here, but he can also be decent in the rotation for the Magic. The Kings receive Larry Nance Jr., and the Cavs receive Corey Joseph and a Harry Giles sign-and-trade or 3 second-round picks. So for the Harry Giles sign and trade, Harry would have to agree to that as the Kings renounce their rights to him for restricted free agency. But if they did do this move, Harry could be a solid enough replacement for Larry Nance, and Corey Joseph is just whatever. He's really just salary filler here. But you're getting 3 second-round picks on top of that, or maybe with it. I don't know. I think just Giles for Nance is solid enough for the Cavaliers. Nance is a good center who can space the floor and be decent all around, and it's ideal to have a center that can space the floor next to, what's his name? Marvin Bagley. But wait, there's more Larry Nance trades here because I don't think that one's amazing for the Cavs. The Pelicans receive Larry Nance Jr., the Cavs receive Darius Miller and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So once more I'm throwing Walker into a trade, and once more I'm throwing Nance into a trade. So same thing I said about Marvin Bagley, a center who can shoot the 3-ball is ideal next to Zion Williamson, and then in the case of the Cavs, I would much rather have Walker over Giles, or Giles. So I would take this trade over the previous one, but if this trade is not available, then I'd take the previous one, but yeah. The Minnesota Timberwolves received JaMychal Green via sign-and-trade for about 3 years, $24 million, making him get $8 million a year. The Clippers received Tyus Jones, and the Grizzlies received Jarrett Culver. This is probably one of my favorites that I came up with because it's very interesting. So the Clippers get back a point guard who is just solid all around and can play make in Tyus Jones. He was a good rotation piece for the Memphis Grizzlies last season. The Wolves get back a power forward that that can both shoot the ball 40% from 3 last year and about 4 attempts per game, and play really good defense, which is the perfect player to put next to Karl Anthony Towns, which is something that this team needs as they're lacking in the power forward position. And the Grizzlies, in exchange for just Tyus Jones, get back a guy who was previously like the 4th pick in the draft just last year, who does have upside. He had a bad rookie year, but not exactly like a foregone conclusion that he's going to be a bust. But I think in the case of the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're really trying to win now, so making this trade would allow them to do so. Or at least it wouldn't hurt. And then finally for the Warriors, I'm just going to do the trade I proposed in the last video that I did about the Warriors, which is Drew Holiday in exchange for Andrew Wiggins and the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft. The Pelicans get another top draft pick and a draft prospect, and the Warriors get back Drew Holiday, who can play the 2 guard while Klay Thompson plays the 3. He brings playmaking to the Warriors, and he also brings defense, obviously, and helps the Warriors defense, which is not going to look as amazing as it did in years previous this season without him. So yeah. Let me know what you think of these trades in the comment section below. Please be nice. Everyone has different opinions on what players have what value, what team would win what trade, and all of those things. So obviously there's going to be a lot of disagreements, but just be respectful. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. His link is going to be in the description. If you want to support this content outside of just your like and subscription, I do have a Patreon where you can go do that. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.